Today I want to bring up meditation and the mind of a child versus the mind of a grown-up. This is a topic that's very dear to my heart because it was like really the starting point, or it's a very vital thing how the model TRITUS came about and how I sort of find an answer rather than having questions in my mind. Remember that I told you in another video, if you haven't seen it, it doesn't matter, I'll tell you once more. This is the material, and this is somewhere in between the theoretical, and this is the experience itself. I use this model to explain music. Remember that I had been playing drums, and I was thinking about drums for a long time. What is music and what is rhythm, and how come I like it so much? And my answer became that I use the material things, the drums, everything that you can touch and you can buy in the stores, and then I use everything that I could learn in schools and in books, all the music theory and everything, and then I sort of practice, and sometimes you don't know really when and how, but if you're diligent and strong and give your heart to it, you will have a rhythmical experience, or like a musical experience, and that is something fantastic. It's like it's healing, and it makes you feel good, it makes you want to live and all these things, and that's one of the magics that playing drums can do. As I said many times, this TRITUS model we can use this to explain other things. Today I want to explain the human mind and being human, what it's like. And to me it's exactly the same thing, but like on a bigger scale, I could say. I usually think about it like this. When we are born, we have no knowledge in our minds. So when we're born, we're sort of empty. And if we're empty, the only thing that we have is that we live. And we live because we live. We have no reason to live other than that we live. And as you're born, you sort of gain a body. And the body is an instrument that can feed your mind with information. We have 5 senses. It's one way to explain it. We have 5 senses. We have like vision, sense, taste, sound. What's the last one? I don't know, but there should be 5 senses that can feed our emptiness with information. So the information goes into the emptiness. Now, it's almost as though that over the years, as you're a child, over the years you sort of gain more and more, finer and finer information that comes into the mind. So we will have then another realm of knowledge. And now you see, this becomes the TRITUS straight away here. We have the material things, we have the emptiness, which is life itself, and then we have knowledge, sort of as an in-between state. It's like we start off in this empty state. We have no conception of time, no conception of how things works or anything. For instance, to my children, if I would say I'll be back later, they can't really comprehend what that means if they're young enough, like 2 years old or something. But maybe when they're 4 or 5, you can say, do this first and here, and then we will go and shop candy, and then we will ride our bike, and they will sort of understand this reasoning. What I found with my own life really is that as I grew up and became a teenager, the more knowledge that I had, the more I started to look outside of me to understand what went on. And with time, the mind of the child, we can do child here, faded away, and it got like blocked out because the realm of knowledge of grown, or like I write teenage, became dominant. As the years passed on, when I was about like 28 or 29, I started to feel that the realm of knowledge that I built up didn't work. What I wanted to do had no meaning, and I felt like, how come I've been to the greatest universities, I've traveled around the world, I've been skiing in the biggest mountains, I'm married to a beautiful wife, we have children, I have been so like privileged in my life, but still I don't know what this life is all about, like my big why. And I figured that I can do everything again and learn even more, gain more knowledge. And then it sort of became clear to me that knowledge is not the complete picture. When we take information through our 5 senses, there's always a limitation to the information that comes into our mind. We can't see all the colors, we don't hear every sound, we miss things, we misinterpret, we use the knowledge that's in our head to interpret things that comes in. So the picture of the world that we have in our heads is not complete. And it's even worse, really, if we listen to someone else who has like a broken idea about the world. So our minds is full of half-truths. Then I remember this quote from a good professor of mine. This is a key thing, so I will write it in red. He said that nothing is true. One of my favorite lessons from university was this: nothing is true. And this was tough on my mind, because I was like, if nothing is true, what am I gonna do then? Everything was moving. So one day I thought, then, if nothing is true, why don't I try to do nothing? Because in the problem, the answer was written at the same time. The problem was the answer. I thought, what if I would now block out the material, so everything that's outside of my five senses, I would block this out. And that's basically, I sat in a quiet room on my own with nothing. But then it struck me that then I'm stuck with the knowledge. And here's my biggest problem, is really here in this realm. In my mind, the biggest problem is I'm sitting here and it's all quiet and it's all shut down, but my mind has still the picture of everything that the five senses have collected throughout this like 30 years that I had lived, or like 25. And then, so I had started spending time. I spent like 40 minutes. That was sometimes 30 or sometimes 50, I don't know, up to an hour. I put my I put an alarm on, and I was sitting as quiet as I could, spending time trying to think about nothing. So as soon as I was thinking about something, I knew that the something was not everything. So I wanted to think about nothing, which would then be everything. According to my formula, that's, okay, I'm jumping a bit now. 0 equals the eternities, as I said before. The eternities is just as difficult to define as nothing. So therefore, going towards the eternities would be too difficult. So I sort of turned the eternities around and said that nothing is the eternities as well. And then if I would think about nothing, I would experience the eternities, and that's impossible. But then I thought, I only experience time through my knowledge that is divided into opposites. I hope this makes sense. All in all, this long idea that I'd worked out over the years was the starting point of me trying to think about nothing. And at one point, I sat there really thinking about nothing. And my mind sort of blew. I collapsed my knowledge, and I started to spend time looking into the emptiness. And this is, I found out later, I had no idea about this really, but this is what's called mystical experience and whatever. So what happened was that in the meditation was a journey away and then past the knowledge and through, like, I don't know, this is all symbolic teaching, but it's like a gate or something towards the light. This sounds crazy, I know. Walk towards the light that you will live. But truly, that's what happened. And from this experience of understanding that nothing is the most stable thing that we have, and it's the most true thing, because it didn't start and it didn't stop. And if it didn't start, it cannot stop. So if it has no beginning and no end, it will not fail us. So this would be then the ultimate truth that no one could tell us, because if you tell us, if you try to define it, it will not be everything. If you say that this is the eternities, it doesn't contain time or whatever. So this is a paradox on its own that can't be described, and it cannot be, however you try to describe it, the description will only fall down into this area where the knowledge is, to our rational mind, and the rationality can never handle things of the eternities. So by walking this path back, I could experience then how it was. Yes, this is important too. I felt like I came home. This is a very common thing that you feel like I came home by doing this. And it's not so complicated really, because if you think of life, oh, this was really bad. Oh, whatever, you can see that this is a graph. If we have knowledge here and we have time here, and you start from when you're grown up, and as you grow, the knowledge increases. And this realm, knowledge realm, develops stronger and stronger over time. But the thing is that knowledge cannot handle the eternities that you understood from the beginning. So you would have to collapse everything that you've learned throughout the years that you've lived in order to see who you were the first, like, I don't know, 30 minutes. Like your original state of your mind that was exactly when you were born. To experience this again, you would have to then calm yourself down or deny, I don't know, just don't think, just be quiet in your mind for a while. And your mind, you will reverse your development and then become again the one you were when you were born. I mean, it's obvious then that you would feel like you come home and that this is the home that I've been missing. Because as I said, when I lived and when the knowledge was dominant in my life, then as I was like 20 years old or something, and my academical studies was really dominant and my rational thoughts were dominant, then of course I'd lost my home, where I came from, because my mind had developed into something. I mean, it was great and all, I could do a lot of maths, but still, the purpose and the feeling of being alive was left behind. I can also explain this as life itself. Like the very life that we live, that we want to live, is found within. The summary of it all. Look at these crazy notes. I hope you followed along. This is how I explain meditation with the model TRITUS, the TRITUS model. And this is my point. I was born in the 80s, and when I grew up, I've had this like mantra thrown at me all the time from school and from teachers and everything. And they say, you have to live your life and be yourself. You have to do that what you feel as being yourself. And a lot of people think that I'm going to go surfing, I'm going to go skateboarding, or I'm going to play the guitar or something. But the thing is that you can never find yourself by doing something external. Sometimes when you play the guitar, for instance, you can have moments where you open up to the inner self, or like the child within you, and you feel like great. You play the guitar and you skip the knowledge and you just act, and it's beautiful. Or you can dance, or you can play football, or you can be with friends or whatever. Some people that work hard get into this mood of intuition. The fact is that if you want to live your life being yourself, you have to stop looking at what other people have told you and just collapse the realm of knowledge and be endowed with the experience that can never be explained. This is explanation, this is experience. If you explain it, you don't capture the experience. This is like looking at a postcard at your holiday. I mean, the postcard can, if you show like a postcard to your family, they'll be like, oh, looks nice, the beach and a palm tree. But you that spend time on the holiday, when you look at the postcard, you'll be filled with memories. And the way to see this is to just sit down and be quiet for a while. And this is also something that ancient prophets and mystics and whatever, and with wisdom dudes have taught in every generation, really, and in every religion. And I'll talk about this because I like it.